Pulling for meta or fun characters has always been a debate in all of gacha games. And generally speaking, the advice pull for who you want can be applied to all of them. Except for Honkai Star Rail. In today's video, I'll be talking about what this advice means and why it's not so simple in Star Rail when taking into consideration of the current metas and other factors that make it difficult to follow. Hi, my name is Spade, and welcome to my little escapade. As we all know, gacha games follow a live service model, releasing new updates every 6 weeks and relying on players to consume their content. One aspect of that is releasing new characters. Of course, we can't gacha them all. So we normally follow this advice. Pull for who you want. And it is honestly pretty sound advice. It just means pulling for characters you find enjoyable to play. After all, video games are a form of entertainment. Whether you like a character's design, gameplay, voice actor, or any other reason. There's no added pressure because it is based off preference. And when you enjoy the game, you keep playing it. If you don't, then well, there is no reason for you to continue. As I said earlier, this advice works in games such as Genshin Impact and Zenless Zone Zero. At least from my experience, I never really felt them pushing this or that. Which is why I just pull for who I want. Most of the time. Sure, some of those happen to be meta characters, but I still found them enjoyable. Meta in these games, at least from what I've seen, are more of characters that make it more comfortable and easy to play. And they tend to be general supports that fit into any team. Zhongli and Farina from Genshin Impact, or Caesar King from Zenless, just to, name a few. That's where the meta ends. But the same cannot be said for Honkai Star Rail. Before we continue, I would really appreciate it if you like this video, as it helps a lot. And subscribe to my channel to see more Honkai Star Rail content such as this one. I do plan on making more Genshin Impact videos again, but I'm still working things out. Also, comment down below what one of your favorite games were as a kid. Mine has to be Sonic Riders on the PS2. Like, that game was really fun. Alright, back to the video. Meta in Honkai Star Rail works a bit differently. It revolves around niches or playstyles, and the current state of the game is dictated around that niche that only specific characters follow. For Genshin, it's more of team comp oriented than playstyle. It may seem the same, but I feel like there's a nuance to it. It could be due to it having, fundamentally different mechanics. Genshin is a more reaction-based game, which is why you could use any characters to play Hyper Bloom, for example, as long as they are the right elements. There's no such thing for Star Rail, so it relies on playstyles such as Follow-Up and Super Break. And as I said earlier, the current state of the game is dictated by it. Star Rail has multiple endgame modes, being MOC, Pure Fiction, and Apocalyptic Shadow. And they are by far my favorite among the hoyoverse games. But I understand that people have their own opinions about it. Now, the problem I'm about to discuss was already touched on by Io, so I may be mouthing the same things. Having more endgame is a good thing. That means having more content and rewards. But it also means needing more characters, especially meant for certain modes. So let's take a look at Pridewind's tier list. By no means is this list 100% accurate and the end-all be-all. It's just there to help players have a general understanding on the average performances of these characters in the different endgame modes. MOC and Apocalyptic Shadow have similar rankings, which makes sense since these game modes are kind of similar to one another. As we can see here, a lot of these are relatively the same. But when we take a look at Pure Fiction, we see a drastic difference, right? The characters that were originally in Tier 2 and 3 in MOC and Apocalyptic Shadow get flipped and now they're tier 0 or tier 1 in pure fiction. Which is nice to see, as it means that these characters have their own place to shine. But it also means that we have to consider pulling and building for more characters specifically for this mode, along with the fact that you have the current meta of the game to consider, which is prevalent in MOC and Apocalyptic Shadow, which is why the rankings are similar. And some players normally view MOC as the main endgame, seeing the other modes as not necessary. But if you ignore the two, you are literally missing out on one tentpole. All of them provide the same amount of jades. So one is not lesser than the other. And as a free-to-play or light spender, you'd be a fool to purposely miss out on them. At least try, it's alright if you don't get all of the rewards, but at least having some is better than none. Lastly, the enemies are also dictated by meta. The new enemies released are tailored to the meta that the game is pushing. Why, you might ask? Well, that's how they sell you characters. It is a gacha game after all. What they're doing is creating a problem, which are the enemies, and putting them in endgame. And the solution to that, to get the rewards, are the new characters currently on the banner. A few examples are the Robot T-Rex and Memory Zone meme. In order to immobilize them, you would want to use DOT characters, which was when Black Swan was released. The Past, Present, and Tomorrow Elite were tailored for break teams. That's when Firefly was released. Same thing for Hule with follow-ups. Feisha was released and Topaz had her third rerun after. Not only were their weakness types the same element, but they were also built for specific niches to combat them. Now, you don't need to pull for the new characters, but to have an easier time with them, you'd feel inclined to pull for the character. The earliest I felt this was with Imbiber de Lune in Fushuan in 1.3. That's when the Swarm was released. And you know what? It worked! I pulled for both of them, and I kinda regret pulling Imbiber de Lune. So with all of those factors in play, should you still pull for who you want, or should you pull for meta? The answer? Do both, right? I know, it is a very cliche answer, but it's true. Although I would rephrase it to pull for who you want, but invest in at least one meta. That way, it's sort of balanced. You also have to take into consideration that investing in a meta involves more than one character. For example, Fei Xiao. You would want at the very least to have Robin also. When it comes to endgame, like MOC for example, it has two sides, so at least you can have your meta team carry you on one side, and you won't have to worry much on the other. If you actually enjoy the meta that you chose, then all the better for you, right? And if you're a newer player, you're in the best position to be in, as you can decide which one you want to start and move forward with. I personally have been a fan of follow-up ever since, so I didn't mind in investing a lot in it. But I did have to make a decision recently. I actually really liked Lingsha's design and personality. She was the fun pick for me. She does work in a follow-up team, but if I wanted the team to perform at its best, Aventurine is a much better pick, the meta pick in this scenario. Now, there isn't any right or wrong pick, but there's definitely a better pick depending on how much value they bring to your team. After some debating, I decided to go with lingsha. I just prefer her a lot more than Aventurine. I liked her design and animations a lot more, plus she has cute rabbits, so I also thought that the concept of her theme being incense was also interesting. I also happened to get her early, so I was happy. And she's been really fun, so I have no regrets. I could still get Aventurine, but with Sunday around the corner, I might have to pass on the gambler. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope this video was able to provide some insight on how Honkai Star Rail's meta works. Hopefully you'll be able to find a balance where you count and enjoy the game. If there isn't a meta that you're interested in, I have a video about the upcoming one. And if you're still having trouble managing your account, I have the video just for you. As always, I would appreciate it if you liked the video and subscribe to my channel. Alright, bye!